Aloha. Welcome to our interview this evening with Kuulei Keawekane. She's a candidate for House District 3, which covers parts of Puna and South Hilo. Conducting our interviews tonight are Antu Harvey and Claire Mason. Before we get started, I'd like to offer a little information about HULI PAC. We are a group of grassroots community advocates volunteering our time to HULI PAC. Many of us have witnessed during oral testimonies the problem of being the minority voice, observing seated representatives voting against the āina, or the majority of testifiers. The majority rule currently allows the continuation of colonial structures, corporate rule, and methods over Ike Hawaii for āina and its people to thrive. We must collectively understand the individual power we carry as Hawai'i Island residents by getting involved. Who's asking our first question tonight?
I will. Thank you, Kuulei, for being here. Um, so we are wondering what has inspired you to run for office this election cycle, and can you describe your core values and how those values would guide you as a legislator?
Sure, I love that question. And please forgive me, I'm not feeling well today, so my voice sounds crazy. But yeah, I'm Kuulei and I'm really grateful to the communities of Keaukaha and Pane'ewa that raised me. I think they and other people like them, and by them I mean kind of the aunties and uncles and the tutus and papas of our community. Um, have been really excited to hear about my run or about the option or about the opportunity of being able to run for office. There's been a lot of change that they wish to see in their lifetime, and it's drawn a lot of excitement and inspiration and encouragement into my community, just to hear of my run. And so that is something that's very supportive to me. I'm inspired to run because I really believe that um I reflect on the like traditional systems of governance for Hawaii. And in those systems, or in the Ahamoku system, there are representatives from each, ahupua'a, and the representatives' kuleana responsibility is to help to maintain the resources of that specific district. And so I've been reflecting lately that the way that the Hawaii state government is set up could be used to model those traditional methods of governance, depending on who we could get into office, and what capacity they have to really serve in a visceral way. And so I guess to answer the question of what's inspired me, it's really my belief in a better way of doing things that is community oriented and centered around the collective, that encourages and involves the tutus and papas and aunties and uncles of our communities, and amplifies their voices in a good way. I forgot the second question already. Was it just what are my values?
Well, you explained a lot of what we were asking in that question. The second part is how can you describe how those core values would guide you as a legislator?
Hmm. Yeah, I'm really grateful to know and love the good God that has been an ever-present force in my life. I come from the Ecclesia of Kauhanehe Molele o Kamala Malama. And we have a general process of doing everything that is good according to the book that we follow. And those values are what I think, or what I work to let lead in my own personal life. And so when we think about the values of justice and well-being for the people and caring for the folks who are less fortunate, those are all of the values that I would like to put forward in my candidacy, and in my time in office should I be elected, of course. My deepest values are aloha and oya i'o. I've spent a lot of time reflecting on what my values and mission is in my life, and those two are most important. To me, I really believe that if we're eleu, or if we're attuned to the truth, and if we have a deep desire to know and understand what the truth is as far as what our community members want and need, and if we have the aloha to really propel us forward in determining what that truth is. The brilliant minds of our communities can all come together and find a good way forward. And so I'm hopeful in those values.
Thank you.
Thank
Next
you.
question, on to.
Yeah, what experiences have you had that qualify you for elected office, like specific work experiences or community projects that you've worked on?
Yeah, I love that question. Right now, I mean, I guess working backwards, I'm a member of the governing board for Kuala Public Charter School in Pane'ewa, which is my community. So I have some experience in leadership in a community setting. I've been really involved in advocacy when it comes to Hawaii legislation and legislature. And so really looking at my experience with the technicality around bills and what bills do and prevent us from doing as a community is I think applicable to this work. But when I think about the Hawaiian word for House Representative, which is Luna Maka'ainana, I have a different set of qualifications than that which is related to policy or political action. I think Luna Maka'ainana are people who are responsible for the oversight of the well-being of the people in their area. And so I really believe in that function. And I think as a farmer and a sister and as a person who has been deeply involved with addiction. So I think my work with Bridge House in Kona as a cultural advisor to the addiction center out there really teaches me and gives me the experience to go the extra mile to figure out what people need specifically and meet them where they're at. And so really it's my experience with the community and those are the experiences that I hope that other Luna Maka'ainana begin to bring into their positions that I hope will qualify them to do well to represent their place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What do you believe is the most pressing social issue that the House needs to address at this time? What are some solutions you have in mind to address that issue?
Yeah, I think there are so many. There's so many social issues that include housing, that include addiction, that include health and wellness, that include the cost of living. But I really, and I kind of laugh when people ask me this because I'm not being facetious. I really believe that if every Luna Maka'ainana, if every single House representative and elected official, especially in the House and Senate, spent the 8 months outside of office of the Capitol, because I think maybe if those who are watching are not aware, House elected officials in state ledge, like the House representatives and senators, they're expected to show up for 4 months out of the year in the Capitol. The other months are really meant for them to be able to spend intimate, deep time with the communities that they serve. And I think if every single House representative took that job and that off season seriously, there would be so many more solutions that come from the community themselves. There would be creative ways for us to work together, district to district. And the problem is that we're not working together. The voices of the people are not being included. Civic engagement is not accessible to the Hapanui or to the wide majority of people who are trying to survive in our communities. And so a solution to that would be just for us to really spend the time with our communities so that we can work through those problems and those issues together. And I think we won't be able to solve anything if we work in silos between our representatives and the folks who are represented.
Thank you. Next
Can you
question.
explain? Oh, sorry. Can you explain a successful community project you've been part of, and can you highlight your community involvement in general? That's kind of a repeat, but an opportunity to build on it.
Yes, I'm so excited about that question. So my day job, I'm a cultural advisor and an outreach lead for Zero Waste Hawai'i Island. We are working and collaborating with the county to establish a returnable dish program for Hilo. And so this requires partnerships with international organizations and also community organizations. And so essentially the idea is that when you go to for those of you who don't know, Hawaii County only has one landfill on our entire island. So all of the trash that's collected in the entire island goes to Pu'uanahulu in Kona. And I've spoke to Pu'uanahulu people. They don't love that. They don't love that situation. And they also recognize that if we don't really take our waste, like the consciousness around our waste seriously, we're going to need another location to put all of that waste. And so the idea and the concept, without getting too far into the weeds, the concept is returnable dishes. It's when you go into a restaurant and instead of receiving your to-go food in a plastic container or a disposable container, you can get it in a stainless steel container and return the stainless steel container to a network of 100 plus return bins that are located in the Hilo area. And so when the beginning of the project, came to a helm, the question was about the community and if reuse was important to the community. And so we had a whole Pili āina gathering. We gathered with the teachers and the navigators, and we gathered with folks from the Micronesian population and the houseless population and the people that will not likely attend any workshop that we do. We made one specifically for them. And in that session, they talked about the importance of involving the children. They talked about the importance of involving families and making aloha āina, or love of land, the core motivator for the program. And so with that, as an example of reaching out to our community members, that led to us seeking more funding to be able to do workshops with the schools and to be able to grow your own workshops with families in the community, to be able to do assemblies with the kids talking about aloha āina as it relates to our habits and trash. And so this dish program, really effectively engaged folks from Aina University, from Uncle Kavika to Nikki at Cupcakes Boom to Keaukaha General Store down by the pier where the visitors come in, and all of these ideas came together, and all of these people and this energy came together around like dishes, but actually around aloha āina, from the oldest to the youngest. So I'm deeply so proud of that work and proud of my team at Perpetual and Zero Waste, and I'm grateful for that question. I'm passionate about that work. Thank you, Antu.
Thank you.
Oh, Claire, you muted.
Muted.
Sorry. Most residents rely on imported foods to meet their weekly needs. Are there any agricultural or food security projects that are working in your district, and how can those models scale to mitigate dependence on imports?
Yeah. So I know that OK Farms is not in my district. So I don't want to speak too much on, the operation that they have going there, but OK Farms with Anakala Troy, Keola Nui, and the Keola Nui Ohana, the heart of their service and the heart of the work that they're doing in regenerative agriculture is around serving the people and making local foods accessible to us. I can say that my family as pig farmers are really experiencing a lot of trials and tribulations when it comes to all of the red tape that is involved with being able to be local food production people, and to be able to be a source of local food that is like legal to actually sell to folks outside of our families. That compliance is a little bit difficult. But I really think the model of family agriculture is a strong one. When you look at the term Mauliola, or Native Hawaiian wellness, it's not only about the product that is produced, but the processes. And so well-being, beyond just the pig that you can eat, the well-being comes from the relationship that the children have to the land and the children have to themselves, as people who are important and valuable members of the family and the community. And so really looking at how state ledge all the way down to the families can really support that model of how to support families to farm our own food is, I think, something that I'm excited to explore with our residents and with our people, because I know that works for us as far as keeping each other fed. Before we move on, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Emma Koa at Navahine Ko'i. I know that she is astutely not a voter. She's very dedicated to not voting, and I support her in that. But they do ahupua'a trade centers where everybody that grows whatever comes together and just brings what they have, and there's no money involved. And so that is the most radical and beautiful example of what works for Hawaii people. And I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited about the opportunity to learn from that model and duplicate that.
Thank you. Next question.
Right. Do you believe that economic development is inherently in conflict with environmental and cultural protections, or can they coexist? And how would you balance these when they seem to compete?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. When I think of economic development, I think about what's most sensible or what seems most sensible, which is to take whatever is our biggest, most beautiful resource, not just physical, tangible resource, but when we're looking at aloha āina and aloha for place, how we can utilize those things to sustain ourselves financially as a family, as a community, as a state, the way and the model of tourism has largely been quite extractive, I think, for our communities. And I don't think that model as it exists is sustainable. But I know that there would be there are lots of farmers who could certainly use some help on their farm. And I think a really simple model that I know that a lot of my friends who are tourists to this place, to kind of simplify the model, it's like if I had if I had a willingness and an openness as a farmer to host 10 people every week, 10 visitors every week to come to our āina, and I get free support from the work labor that is being imported temporarily, from the visitors that come. I think there's a way, but not unless we collaborate, not unless we work together, not unless we break down the silos that have kept farmers from politicians and politicians from students and students from, all of those things. So, really, really breaking down those barriers is important. But I guess sorry, my light. I guess the simple answer to that is no, or maybe yes, or whatever. Look at this. What's going on? What is the question? Antu, what is the question? So I can wrap this up.
Oh, it was that thing about economic development, and especially you're talking about our current system is so much extractive. And so there is seeming real, destruction and conflict with environmental and cultural.
Yeah, the current model, but I don't think it has to be like that. And I think you can do a whole lot. I'm gonna just unplug this lamp. I think it's gonna be fine. But you can do a whole lot when you break down the barriers. So I don't think it needs to be and stay that way. I don't think so.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Next question.
Water availability and infrastructure are a concern in rural communities. Many residents rely on catchment systems that go without in times of infrequent rain. And also currently in South Kona, we're experiencing a lot of people going without water due to earthquakes and their catchment systems having blown up essentially when the earthquakes hit. What policies would you support to ensure long-term water security for residents and agricultural needs?
Yeah, I'm going to be really honest to say that I don't have a lot of experience with policy around water. But my relations in Maui do. And so this would be an instance where I would phone a friend and see how I can be supportive to their leadership of something like this, or, depending on who the affected folks are / were, those collaborations I think would be really important.
Thanks.
Great. Legislators need to spend more time in their communities to develop legislation, and we in particular with our state legislators with in session being so much time on Oahu. What would you do to promote civic engagement and more effectively involve the residents in solution decision-making processes, especially in your district?
Yeah, I'm trying to do it now, but I have 10 jobs because I need 10 jobs. So I'm not doing a good job at it right now. But civic engagement needs to be fun for young people. The collaborations important in that realm include collaborations with people like Kaikena Scanlon and the other Ika Akamai and the folks who are popular in the music era and the music industry now, like collaborating with those folks to really look at how civic engagement can be cool. Look at how civic engagement has always been cool for Hawaii people. So I think curriculum is a stale word, but if we look at really producing quality media around voting and around civic engagement, I'm really excited to do that whether I'm elected or not. But also I think the model of working with the children is so important. And so from the young people to the old people, it's like right now the government is kind of just like, oh God, in some parts of my community, it's like, oh God, I don't know, this corrupt. But it doesn't need to be that way. And there are a lot of changes that are able to happen if we get the right people in office. And so having those conversations and creating that space is important. One thing, when if the question is what will I do, the bare minimum for any active legislator is to either attend or have a representative, delegate, we're delegating Kuleana here, have a representative attend the monthly meetings. It's one meeting per month per community. And there's no reason with all of the resources that the state legislature has that not one person from their kulana or from their function or from their position can show up to these monthly meetings, or at least every other one. We go years without seeing legislators not put on a town hall, come to our existing structure of how we meet and how we solve problems. It's like really important for us to be active in that way. And when we do, I think, just to wrap up, when we do create these spaces for folks to come and sit down in town hall and share, listen and share, it's important that we have childcare for the mothers who can't get out of taking care of their keiki, supervised childcare. It's important to be at an accessible location. We have to have food. It's good to have music. It's good to have lei for the kupuna in the area. Those are all things that are super important in trying to engage our communities.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. So regarding the cost of living, the Hawaii state minimum wage is $16 an hour. Do you think this is sufficient to support individuals and families in maintaining their ability to build careers? And how would you address affordability or fair wages on Hawai'i Island and within the state?
Yeah, it's difficult. The kind of business owner that I am, or like the kind of entrepreneur that I am, is I don't have any employees. So I don't have to worry about not being able to afford to pay them, and this is another kind of area that I don't have a lot of creative expertise around. I've always been supportive of upping the minimum wage to be able to support our families to have livable wages and be able to survive in our communities. And I don't know how that affects small businesses. There I don't have the experience, but maybe there's a way that we could get creative around exemptions for small businesses to provide or for us to creatively provide benefits from higher, more higher kind of like bigger businesses or folks who are earning a lot of money. Maybe there are ways that those folks can be more supportive to the small business owners. I think there's lots of creative ways to address that, and I'm sorry not to have a lot of experience in that realm, but really deeply open to collaboration and learning from the leaders in those areas.
Thanks. Appreciate that answer.
So you can kind of tell we're kind of moving around back and forth on some of these. We're not just doing one theme.
Yeah, sure.
And that also gives you a chance to kind of circle back around.
Yeah.
So when a developer would approach you to get your support with a project that promises jobs and tax revenue, but your community members are raising concerns about cultural sites, environmental impact, or infrastructure issues, how do you decide? Give us a specific example if you have one.
Yeah. Let's see, I'm reflecting on an interview I did a couple of years ago when we talked about, like, is all development bad? And I deeply have a love and affection for the developers in the community that help with housing, like actual housing for families that are actually affordable. But I think when we're looking at this question of cultural sites, there's two things that come to mind. The the current law in the United States of America, and by default applies to Hawaii, there are protections in place for certain people and certain things and certain processes and certain protocols. And while those have not been honored in a good way all the time, I think it's very important to be able to honor the existing laws. Like for the organizations that are responsible to the people, not to always make the people try to explain, or there are existing laws that I think we have to be well versed on as legislators. And secondly, I think about, again, the term mauliola. And so when you're looking at this action of kind of like decrediting, for folks who think that even saying, oh no, sorry, we're not listening to these people that, sacred sites, however it is, decrediting those folks and then moving forward with development, that doesn't seem like an option for me. I think it's really important for us to look at the ways that even that has a negative impact on Hawaii people and our health. Specific example wise, when I'm looking at the Mauna Kea issue and the 30-meter telescope, that development is still quite heated. In that specific situation, legislation was in place and was not followed. And so the rules that were established by the local governance structure was not followed, and the people, the responsibility to hold strong on what was already established fell on the people. During the Mauna Kea issue, we had close beloveds that took their lives because of the ways that grief, for not being heard, for having to have our kupuna up there and in the cold for however long. The impacts extend beyond the issue when we're looking at sacred sites and valuing and honoring the voice of the people. And so all of those things have to really be considered. And I don't feel apologetic about that. I do know that there is a high need for development of, we talked about water infrastructure. There's a high need for the development of affordable housing in places that have lots of land, but no infrastructure there. Hawaiian Homelands is an example of that. I'm really, just to wrap this question up, I'm really deeply excited to work with the developers who are willing to take up that work. Not so much luxury housing, not so much hotels, not so much, big bucks of whatever it is, but really to look at using their skills as developers to solve Hawaii's most critical issues that could uplift the quality of life for our whole place. And so I'm hopeful in that realm.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kuulei. Addiction and homelessness are a major issue across Hawaii. Can you speak on your experience with Bridge House and how that would guide you in legislation around those issues?
Yeah, I think about the word vulnerability when I think about addiction and houselessness. These people, and not to generalize, but a large population of folks that are experiencing addiction and houselessness in Hawaii are deeply vulnerable, and they don't have a lot of access to the basic necessities of what it is to survive. Like, of course, housing, but also water and food. And I think a lot of times folks are looked at negatively when they're houseless, or like folks who are, or maybe there's a culture of unsafety that's associated with certain populations. And this is where I lean into my biblical root to look at the importance of honoring people for their peoplehood, for their personhood. I want to reflect that in our work with Zero Waste Hawai'i Island, there's a lot of like, oh, the homeless are gonna damage these bins. It's like the homeless are gonna make any kind to these different parts of the program. But if we humanize that experience, I'm like, which homeless? because but this bin, that's Uncle Rocky, folks, and we know that they know that this is our project and this is what's happening with them, and then over there is Dragonfly, and I know he knows that that's our bin, so when we're looking at the issues of houselessness and addiction, the consciousness has to be to humanize those people and those issues, and I think a lot of solutions can come from that consciousness. I feel like maybe I didn't answer the question, but those are the
No,
things that come
you're
to
great.
mind.
How do you see our economy moving away from the reliance on tourism? And what industries within your district do you feel we need to further support and are developed to move forward towards a more circular and diverse economy? And how would you support those industries?
Yes. Okay, when I think I might have spoke to this earlier, but when we're looking at the economy and finding solutions in that realm of subject, agriculture is a really high opportunity, and not just monocropping, like, and not just buying acreage and just farming only like limes or whatever, one crop of something. That's no, there's a way that we can incorporate and collaborate. I think thus far folks have largely avoided collaboration. The farmers are not really talking to the visitor, or maybe those things are starting to happen now, but the visitor industry are, if those relationships are being made, it's for like tourism, to tour the farm, and not look at making more farms and making more education, more resources, more jobs for people to be able to farm. And so yeah, I'm excited about looking into the ways that agriculture can really amplify our economic status through these collaborations with other industries.
Great, thank you.
There are parts of your district that are lacking infrastructure, and by that I mean good roading, water, internet. How would you address that in terms of raising revenue for your district?
Yeah, I think I'm thinking about the concept of raising revenue. Do you mean like raising state revenue?
Yeah, how would you shift funding from some of the other districts? It could be raising taxes. It could, I mean, there's numerous ways.
Okay.
There could be
Sure.
bonds.
Yeah, sure. I think right now I'm not well versed on the state budget as is in this last legislative session, but I think that there is a way that we can reallocate funding from the specific example I'm thinking of is like a rocket launch pad at like Hilo Airport. When there's no internet on just the other side of the town. So looking at how to reallocate these things that are superfluous and excessive and not supportive to our quality of life. These are things that folks say, oh, it can bring so many, opportunities. What opportunity is more important than running water? So really reallocating some of the funding from these superfluous activities that are happening in the state and directing them toward the necessities for the most vulnerable parts of the state is important. And so that requires deep collaboration, representative to representative, and vahi to vahi, the place to place. And so when we have a group of legislators that have private interests in their the partnerships they might have with folks who are developers or whatever it is, it's not the same result as if we have many farmers, many aunties, many community members, many community leaders coming up to run for office and support and really actually represent their people, so that we can all have these conversations throughout the state. Like throughout the state, everyone's well versed on who needs what and where those allocations have to that's an old way. If there's not enough water resources, hevai, right? If there's not enough water being allocated to one part of the island, the sensible thing to do is have a conversation between the folks with the most water and then redivert those to the folks who need it the most. And so just utilizing those traditional, that makes sense type consciousness to apply that to this feels like what's the most sensible. So those, excuse me for the passion of like, that's something that the Keaukaha community, they're like, we didn't even want to airport, and now they want to put like a launch pad. You know, it's heated in our Keaukaha Community Association meetings. But yes, thank you for that question, Jeff.
Thank you. Next question.
Hawaii is still heavily reliant on imported energy. What solutions do you support that would alleviate our need to rely on outside sources?
Yeah, I know. So that question has been really pressing for me because the Hawaii community, depending on who you talk to, have different perspectives on geothermal. And I think there are other energy solutions that include solar, that include wind. You know, in my experience, these efforts to establish reliable energy for Hawaii have been sometimes really destructive in certain communities. I'm thinking about Kahuku in 2019 in that era. There were lots of folks that, okay, it was me. There are lots of folks who were arrested for really trying to make a stand against the Kahuku wind turbines because the turbines were too close to the school. You know, so the protest wasn't against wind power. It was against the way that those folks were trying to forward where they would put the wind. You know, in our communities, we have in Hawaiian homes communities, we have the harbor, we have the gas, and we smell all the gas, and we have the sewage, and we have the rubbish dump, right? In the Pane'ewa Keaukaha communities alone, we have all the traffic from the mall. All of these things that are meant to support the larger, you know, county of Hawaii or even island of Hawaii are all housed in the Hawaiian homelands. How come we didn't put anything like that on Sunrise Ridge, you know, where all the rich people live? Like so anyway, when we're looking at alternative energy sources, I really appreciate that it's important. I did a physics project and learned how many gallons of crude oil it takes to make 1 gallon of gas. You know, it's astronomical. And so it's important for us to look into these alternative energy sources. But we have to be able to do it in a good way. And if we're committed to doing that, then I think if the spirit and the values and the morale around how we're trying to solve for these issues is and firm, then I think there's a way forward. I don't want to speak on what it is. I don't have the answer, but I know that I wouldn't be able to create a good way forward without attending the monthly meetings and, you know, getting into the minds of the old people and the young people and make sure they're well informed, and then we can create, you know, figure out a creative solution together. I'm sure of that.
Thanks.
Well, this kind of ties into that, I think, nicely, because everything that we're hearing both in our state and then across the country about like the data centers doing NDA, you know, agreements, and nobody knows what's happening until, you know, they're built and operating. So for government transparency and public inclusion, what steps would you take to make this budget or projects, you know, prospective expenditures easier for residents to understand and to monitor?
Yeah, I would I'm so sorry that I coughed so loud and long that I think I missed a part of your question, but are we looking at how to make data and information more accessible to the community?
Yeah, because fundamentally we keep learning. I mean, even now we're learning. I just heard the governor say today that he really is thinking that, you know, natural gas is really important and we really need to be boosting that. And with our Jones Act, you know, like 80% of all our petroleum products and stuff all come from overseas. not coming from the United States even.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. When I hear the word natural gas, I think about cows. And I don't know if that's the right kind of gas that he was, referring to. But
LNG, I think for us,
No.
Okay.
LNG,
Right.
liquefied natural gas.
Right. Anyway.
Yeah,
So
I get you.
so if we're but I mean, and that's an honest example of what I mean by collaboration, right? There's so many there. That's a real. I don't mean like let's have a cow farm and then make like all the electricity come from the cow farm. I mean, I don't know, maybe, but there are creative solutions like that. I mean, we have a wastewater treatment issue. I think maybe there are scientists and creative minds that are like, hey, actually, though some of that waste can be converted into power in like this type of way or another. Um, those are the kinds of collaborations that I think need to happen. But I really appreciate I'm not good at delegating, but I would need to be in this case, but because I think there are some people that are so good at simplifying information and data into very cutesy, very colorful slides or papers or mailers. I think there's a lot of mailers that go out with my face on it and this is all I did. No, I think the mailer should be used on the critical issues, informing the public on the critical issues so they can weigh in on that. And then I think, again, attending the regular meetings, putting on regular meetings throughout the year to explain these critical issues, explain the key points, and really look at every kuana ike, every perspective, and look at the humanity and why everyone feels the way they feel and inform our communities about those things. The benefits and also costs of certain systems, right? I mean, our communities are not informed on that. I think they would be if there was free dinner involved, free dinner and free childcare. I'm sure everyone would be very interested in being informed about these issues, but nobody is doing that work, So I think, yeah, accessibility is important, and I'm grateful and hopeful that there will be good folks to get in that will facilitate that for our families.
Well, I don't know if you want to insert a Claire about the lawsuit and the judgment that just happened with some people that we know that were named plaintiffs about the behind closed doors and stuff going on.
Jeff, I'll let you speak on it. I'm not familiar enough.
Well, that particular issue, I'm not very well versed on. I do know that are you talking about the lawsuit?
Yeah, that Laura and Tanya were named, and Gary was writing about that the committees were doing things behind closed doors, contrary to our sunshine rules and
right. That's been an ongoing issue with the legislative committees for quite some time.
Yes.
That they've been meeting behind closed doors and making decisions, and a lot of the legislators just follow along with whatever the committee chair says. So I guess maybe the question for Kuulei would be, would you be more inclined to just kind of go along with that type of process, or would you be one of the people that would stand up and try and change it? Because there was only one legislator in the whole House that was willing to stand up to everybody, and I considered that a very bold move. That was Kim Coco. So, how do you balance that out? I mean, you have to be an effective legislator, but by the same token, you don't want to be having to bow down to that type of commitment to the committees.
Yeah, I'm trying to avoid yelling here now because I'm so annoyed. I'm so annoyed and passionate about resources in our communities. And so let's say I'm an elected official. My community in their tax dollars pay me $76,000 a year plus per diem, not to sit down and try to follow along what everybody else is doing. I'm paid to represent my community. I recognize that in order to be an effective legislator, the idea, the consciousness is that we need to play the game so that other legislators vote for our stuff. I don't experience that that's what my community is paying me to do. I don't experience that that's my job. I experience that I'm being paid to represent District 3. Keaukaha, Panaeva, Aina Loa, Orchid Land, Fern Acres. I'm responsible to do the best I can to represent them. Whether that's a popular opinion, whether that's an ugly opinion, whatever it is, we're making a decision together for the most part. And my hope is that I would be able to do a good job, that that the end result of that is aloha aina oya i'o. I'm confident that will be the case, but I can't imagine, and I don't plan. I'm doing actually everything I can in this sickness of mine today to have stronger, more powerful elected officials in office. One example, I know I'm not too, yeah, I know you folks are not, this is not reflective of HULI PAC at all. But one example of this is Paele. Paele is running for House. He's running in the Green Party in Maui. Paele and I are dear friends. And if I needed Paele to vote for something for me that he thought was not pono, I would expect him to vote against that. We love each other dearly, but I expect him to bring his best, most brilliant mind to this work of legislation. And if that conflicts with what my best and most brilliant mind is, let it be. But ideally, however, are there 51 House representatives and 27 senators?
I believe so.
I expect
50.
51 or 50?
No, it's 51 or more. I'm just not sure if they
Right.
added
I
one or
expect
not.
every single elected official to do their best to represent their community, not to play these games of who will we like today, who we're gonna bribe today with our vote for this or that. That's not what I'm hired to do, right? That's not the job. And so I'm passionate about that, and I'm hopeful that's kind of the crux of what it is to support civic engagement and support voting, and really get involved in like what's happening with our community as far as what they know about voting, is because there are better people running this year for office. And I think when we get those people in, the community has a voice in the state legislation, in the legislature. And so excuse me, and my passion, and thank you. I hope I answered your question.
Great.
All right,
Right.
we have time for one last question.
Sure.
All right. This one might fire you up too.
Oh no. Zoom is gonna crash, girl. My light bulb is already flickering. I don't know.
Military negligence and outdated infrastructure has resulted in several large fires in and around the training area. How would you address the public concern of fires and public safety regarding military efforts?
Yeah. Thank you. Contrary to what I think you thought, I'm in this really humbled position after hearing that question. Auntie Kealoha Pishiona once told me that the military is one of the most feminine, the most feminine kind of sects of the United States government. And when I think about the way that those men are ordered to yield to what's being ordered of them to do, I just see the hearts of the men, the hearts of the men and women who are now in positions of, I have to follow these orders, So when we're talking about anything military, that's what comes to mind. I want to answer the question, but for context, because of the relationship that my family and my genealogy has to the occupation of the Hawaiian Kingdom government, I don't stand at the Ose Can You See, the national anthem, the US national anthem. But when I am with Greg and Ari and Asa, who Greg is a member of the United States military, I stand and sing for him and in honor of him and in honor of the life that he's given for what he believes, And so when we're looking at anything to do with the US military, I think it's important to see the Gregs. It's important to see the people that really believe that maybe this is something that's good and important. And I think if everyone involved can operate with that heart of seeing, again, the humanity in one another, the collaborations can be fruitful. And so maybe resources are more easily allocated because of the aloha in the space. And aloha is not not submission always, but aloha is deep concern for life and each other. And so I guess when we're looking at solutions to fires, I don't know exactly what I would write in a bill or how to address that in that way. But being able to see the humanity of folks even in the US military, I think is important as we work in that field. And I'm sorry, I don't have more to offer on that.
Well, thank you, Kuulei, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. I know you weren't feeling well, and we appreciate you showing up and participating. And thank you also, Antu and Claire, for interviewing Kuulei tonight. One thing I always like to do is encourage everybody after these interviews to discuss them with your friends and your family, discuss the candidates and the issues, and then please get out and vote. One vote can make a big difference. We're small communities, and your vote really counts. So please vote. HULI PAC was born. What?
Sorry, Jeff, I'm so sorry. I didn't get a chance to even introduce myself or say any. I have one point that I'd like to bring into this HULI PAC space today, if possible.
Okay.
It's just a minute.
Sure.
I really wish someone asked me what's my favorite thing about the House District 3. My favorite thing about House District 3 is the way that the communities operate. Panaewa people, we're deeply proud to be Panaewa people. Keaukaha people, deeply proud. Keaukaha roots, and even as you go up Uka from there, our āina loa ohana, our orchid land ohana, our fern acres ohana, they're proud of their community. The moms and the dads and the kids, oh, I'm from āina loa, Puna strong. People are proud of their place. And so I'm happy about that, and makes me feel like running for office is a very familial thing. And I'm looking forward to working with every community as much as I can in my run for office and also if elected. So thank you for the opportunity to share. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jeff.
No worries. Thank you. HULI PAC was born from a shared drive to rework our system by seeking indigenously progressive-minded, āina-based, equity-focused leadership for our Hawai'i Island community. Now more than ever, we need leaders who are willing to circle back to our roots and instill real change to regenerate and transform our Hawai'i Island community. For more information, check out our website, hulihai.com, HULIHI.com. Thanks again, and everybody have a great evening.
Thank you.
At HULI PAC, we envision a future in which our Hawai'i Island community is empowered to elect pono leaders, nurture our relationship with āina, and inspire environmental, social, and economic well-being.
Our mission is to endorse and support candidates and office holders of integrity who serve āina and the people of Hawai'i Island. We do this by interviewing, researching, and ultimately vetting candidates and incumbents who are running for local office.
All of our interviews are streamed live so that you have the power to make decisions off of substance rather than a familiar face or a name. We must move forward and encourage voting based on righteous qualifications and a backbone to stand up for what is pono.